On this episode of Urban U, we honor Black History Month with a series of stories celebrating people who've made a difference, trailblazing lives past and present. With her recent passing, we celebrate the undying legacy of feminist author Bell Hooks. We go back to the 60s and take a look at the Selma to Montgomery March through the lens of photographer Stephen Somerstein. We also journey into present-day Harlem, where a young woman made a vow to help others, and leave you with a college professor who moonlights as a comedian. That and much more. Welcome to Urban U.
I began to use the phrase in my work, white supremacist capitalist patriarchy, because I wanted to have some language that would actually remind us continually of the interlocking systems of domination that define our reality.
She was an activist, an educator.
I can't even imagine what my life would be like without the emphasis on education.
A cultural critic, a feminist icon.
Mass media is being used in that very same way right now to get women out of feminism and back into some patriarchal mode of thinking.
She authored over 30 books, translated into 15 languages, and several thought-provoking essays before her untimely death on December 15, 2021. Before she became Bell Hooks, she was born Gloria Jean Watkins in a small town in Kentucky in 1952, both her parents working-class African Americans. In a statement following her recent death, her sisters said this: Gloria learned to read at an early age, and she even proclaimed that she would be famous one day. She set off on her path to becoming famous when she began attending Stanford University, where she received a bachelor's degree in English. Later, she earned a PhD from the University of California, Santa Cruz. Her career as a writer and educator began almost simultaneously around the mid-1970s when she became a professor and lecturer at the University of Southern California. It was there she published her first book, a book of poems called And There We Wept. It was also then that she began using the name Bell Hooks, a name she adopted from her maternal great-grandmother, whom she admired for her bold and snappy tongue. In 1983, one of her most celebrated works was published, Ain't I a Woman? Black Women and Feminism, which she began writing during her college years. Hailed as groundbreaking feminist text, the book explains the intersections of sexism, racism, and the devaluation of Black womanhood stemming from slavery. In 1999, she published All About Love, which offers new ways to love radically, a bestseller dubbed a classic. Through her evolution as one of the foremost intellectuals in the country, she entered the doors of several institutions as an educator, including Yale, Oberlin, and the City College of New York, where she became a distinguished professor of English in 1994. There she saw how privilege and class affects students.
And the first thing I noticed was that my students were equally brilliant in the Harlem setting as they were when I taught at Yale or Oberlin, but their senses of what the meaning of that brilliance was and what they could do with it, their sense of agency was profoundly different. I think many professors do not try to give them the gift of critical thinking in a certain kind of patronizing way. Education just says all these people need is tools for survival, basic survival tools like their degree so they can get a job, and not in fact that we enhance their lives in the same way we've enhanced our lives by engaging in a certain kind of critical process.
This has been her greatest legacy, many would say, inspiring people from around the world to think deeper, to resist systems of oppression, to love better. The proof is in the adoration and tributes that have poured in from her students, admirers, and friends. Through her work and its impact, she lives on. Abby Ashola for Urban U.
One of the most important issues being debated today is that of voting rights. It's a fight that goes all the way back to the 60s when Martin Luther King led the 1965 Freedom March from Selma to Montgomery. To find out more about the march, we spoke with CCNY alum and renowned physicist Stephen Somerstein, who documented the march in a series of evocative photographs.
In 1965, I was involved with the evening newspaper at City College. They needed a photographer, and somehow I had worked myself up through the management and became an editor. I had a young reporter named Tom Kelly, and he and I decided we were going to go down to Alabama. We were going to follow the students from City College. I had a feeling that the march would be a national symbol. People from all over the country would be there.
The march was not without its risks. Activists involved in the previous Selma marches had been badly beaten and even killed.
President Lyndon Johnson was going to federalize the National Guardsmen down in Alabama because the governor of Alabama would not protect the marches. He refused to do that. When we got into the downtown areas, you spot them on the rooftops along the way. I went up to one of the people from the Justice Department and I said, hey, listen, I want to go off into town here and pick up some film. Can you have one of your men come with me? And he refused. He said it was far too dangerous. I had lots of photographs of people watching the march, but rarely did you see them reacting. I could count on one hand the number of mostly young people who might have shown antipathy to the march, but that was a rarity. There were some people on the way who just waved. There was a young fellow who used zinc oxide paint vote on his forehead. He went back to his job and he got fired. Think about the community there, what people are willing to exhibit and not exhibit. For many people there, if they lived in the community, there could be consequences. When we got to the State House in Montgomery, I looked up and I saw that there were two flags flying on the top. And as I got closer, I couldn't make out at first, but then I looked that they had cross and bars on it, and I realized one was the state flag and the other one was the Confederate flag. There was no American flag flying on the state capitol, so you knew you were not in exactly friendly territory.
Tell us about Dr. King's speech.
That was very fascinating because while I was photographing him, I'd be in one ear listening to his speech and the other trying to get good shots of him. Then I got onto the stage and got behind Dr. King, took my photographs of King facing the marchers and got my iconic image. Then I said, I need to photograph the crowd itself. I want to see their faces. And then I photographed a wide panoramic view of the crowd listening to him. It wasn't until I blew up the negative and started looking at each individual face that I realized how much he had captured the moment for so many people. He acted as a kind of a lightning rod, but also a healer. And his speeches, if you listen to them, they talk about the promise of a better world to come. You look at just the lineup of people who went on that stage, one wonders in the crowd, how has their life changed after that moment in time?
How did this experience covering the Freedom March change you?
My photographing the civil rights and things prepared me to sort of really look at people. Don't just photograph people on the stage. Look at the people around that, the people on the sidelines. I take pictures even when I don't have a camera. I'll look at it and say, that's a great shot. That tells a good story.
I'm Scott Kirby for Urban U.
Hello, everyone. During Black History Month, it is my honor to join you in celebrating the many accomplishments of African Americans, not only of the past. We also continue to work to celebrate the work of those who advocate for social justice and professional and volunteer services in our time, including right here at York College and throughout CUNY. It takes all of us to make our society work for each of us. We must rise to the occasion in our own time and place by doing the best that we can for the whole. We are living in trying times, so let us lift each other up in whatever way we can.
February is American Heart Month, and of course, February is also Black History Month. So we'd like to take this opportunity to celebrate a woman who encompasses both, the late, great Marie Maynard Daly. She may not be a household name, but, well, to say nothing of racial or gender factors, certainly very few chemists exist in the public eye as household names regardless. But Daly was a pioneer, with accolades from the American Heart Association, New York Academy of Sciences, and American Cancer Society to show for it. Not only did her research contribute to advances in understanding muscles, cells, proteins, and yes, heart health, but she stands as the first Black woman in American history to earn a PhD in chemistry. Marie Maynard Daly was born right here in Queens in 1921, and would go on to graduate with honors from CUNY's own Queens College in 1942. Now, while 1940s America was not exactly a level playing field, this was during World War II, and with the nation mobilized for war, more opportunities were available for women and minorities than had been before. And indeed, someone as gifted as Daly wasted little time taking advantage of that window, enrolling in Columbia University and completing that groundbreaking PhD in 1947. Her work in the field would prove equally groundbreaking. Always interested in cellular chemistry, her research described how muscle cells best absorb creatine, and furthermore, her studies led to new understandings of cell proteins as well as DNA. In fact, when Watson and Crick won the Nobel Prize in 1962 for describing the structure of DNA, Watson cited one of Daly's research papers in his acceptance. And that brings us to the heart. If you know you're supposed to watch your cholesterol for your heart's health, you have Daly to thank. Her studies were the first to call attention to the role of cholesterol in clogged arteries, and also provided a lot of foundational research into our modern understanding of hypertension. By 1986, Daly had retired from research, but not from advocacy. Realizing the importance of her own journey, in 1988, she established a scholarship for African American science students at her alma mater, Queens College. Marie Maynard Daly died at the age of 82 in 2003, but her legacy very visibly lives on, not just as a pioneer of Black scientists and heart health, but indeed quite tangibly as well, with the 2016 founding of the new PS360 back in her hometown of Queens, dedicated as the Dr. Marie M. Daly Academy of Excellence, a monument to a trailblazer and an inspiration for those to follow. For the record, I'm Ari Goldberg.
When I first started Girl Vows, an organization, I really wanted to start the organization at the age of 16. And that was during the time that I was going through my turmoil, and people came to rescue me, so to speak. And I said, you know what, one day I'm going to do something for girls that were like me.
Since 2015, Dawn Rowe, a 3-time CUNY graduate, has been impacting the lives of young women through Girl Vow, a gender-focused mentoring program for girls and LGBTQ youth who face poverty, foster care, and the juvenile justice system. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that these young women are experiencing in their lives?
I have young people who are experiencing sex trafficking, what we call them sex survivors. I had a young girl who was recently shot by her pimp. I've had young girls that have babies from relationships where they needed a place to stay. A man would say, well, I'll give you a place to stay, and it turns into a relationship, and she winds up having a child from this man that she never wanted. A lot of the stories are really horrific, and some of the experiences that the young people have, like you would never think in a million years that young people were suffering to the point in which they are.
I was in and out of incarceration since I was like 15. My name is Kylasyia Thompson, and I'm affiliated with Girl Vow by being a part of the youth. My grandmother had passed away, so I didn't really have a person to like help with my daily needs, like keeping money in my pocket and stuff like that. So I started to like steal from other people. So I was in Rikers Island 3 months, and then I came home. I did the same thing. I got locked up again. I did like another 2 months. It was like ongoing, like 16, 17. I spent my 17th birthday in jail. Now I'm a first-time mom. My son is 4 months. I'm in college, obtaining my associate's degree in business management, and I work from home doing work study. Oh my God, I love Dawn so much. Like, I needed like money. I needed like transportation to get to like interviews and stuff like that. And she will always come through. Like, sometimes I'll be hungry because before I wasn't on like food stamps or government assistance or nothing like that. And she helped me get the application in. She helped me get my application in for college.
Shay-Lynn Boyd, Girl Vow's program coordinator, says providing such resources to the young women in the program make their community stronger overall.
There's so many youth that need that guidance, that need that help. And without our resources at Girl Vow, I don't know where they would be. And they tell us that every day in our workshops. They're like, you know, I share your resources every day with others around me. So it's not just like we're impacting our participants, we're impacting their communities.
I felt like because I've been incarcerated, I'll never be able to get a job. I'll never be able to go to college. I'll never be able to do the things that I wanted to do. And Girl Vow has showed me, like, just because you had this little bump in the road doesn't mean that your life is completely over.
Rowe knows firsthand how to maneuver past obstacles, and it's that tenacity that inspires her work. So Dawn, tell me your story. What brought you to this kind of work?
So I think my story is rather interesting. I was a high school dropout, suffering from parental abandonment. I was suicidal. At some point in my life, I was a couch surfer, and I really didn't have any type of direction. I grew up with 3 friends. 2 of them are incarcerated for life due to murder charges. 1 is deceased, and then there's me. Why did I think, and how could I even think that I would have a chance at life and that I would be able to aspire to anything? It's through meeting people after I tried to commit suicide that I learned that I had value. I learned that I was intellectual enough, and I learned that I could do something greater with my life. There's only but so much that we can do to close the door on those relationships, because those relationships are key, because in some sort of way, we still have to take responsibility for our part. My goal is to leave a legacy so that young people can continue the torch and carry on the work. I want them to know that all things are possible no matter what their experiences have been.
Abby Ashola for Urban U. Stay tuned for more as we end the show on a lighter note with Dr. Justin Williams using his stage comedian skills to engage students in his history class. But first, words of inspiration from a famously lighthearted CUNY alum.
Kingsborough Community College. That's right, community college. I used to attend Kingsborough Community College. I studied communications there for 1 year. And I gotta tell you, some of the things I learned, I apply even today. And some of the things you are learning or you have learned, you will apply for the rest of your life. You guys made a bold decision by going to college, okay? And this is just the beginning of your life. So I want you to go out there and enjoy life to the fullest. Congratulations from a fellow Kingsborough Community College student. Take care.
This is Justin Williams, PhD.
I'm an associate professor of history at the City College of New York. My specialties are in modern African history and the history of the African diaspora.
This is also Justin Williams.
Well, you want to know what New York's really like? Go into your closet, close the door, and deduct $2,000 from your checking account every month.
Do you have to be a stand-up comedian nowadays to keep students interested?
I tell you, it doesn't hurt. The ways in which you can become a more effective stand-up comic actually does have a lot of overlap with being in the classroom. It's about making the information relevant to that person.
Williams has performed nationally for over a decade.
I'm a black guy that wears glasses, which means I have to know things. Because if I don't know things and other black people see me, they get angry. Like, hey man, what's the square root of 9? I don't know. Why you got them glasses on? You're supposed to be a leader in the community, man.
Any skills you have to hold people's attention in the social media era are very useful. I actually moved around a lot growing up. I had 2 divorced parents, and so I was moving back and forth between Dallas, Texas, and Kansas City. And when you're the new kid, the easiest way to make friends is always to be the class clown. So that's where that develops. Growing up, I've been watching stand-up comedy since I was little. So, the first 3 comics I remember really gravitating towards were Richard Pryor, George Carlin, and Rodney Dangerfield.
Last week was rough. Are you kidding? Last week I looked up my family tree. 2 dogs were using it.
I was fully an adult. I had just moved to New York, and I went to Caroline's Comedy Club to see Paul Mooney.
White folks worship golf. I don't like golf courses. They look like a plantation. I'm from the South. I get mad every time I see one.
To see somebody speak that way and be incredibly provocative with an audience, I was like, I don't want to do exactly what Paul Mooney's doing, but I know I want to be in an environment like this, and started performing. And I've been performing consistently now. I mean, God, it's probably 13 years now, something like that.
And while Williams never does his nightclub material in class,
I just went on an improvised rant about the stereotypes of college students around. The person who doesn't turn in any work during the entire semester, and they send the professor an email that says, how can I get an A in this class? Pajama students are another one, the ones that just never actually ever change clothes from getting out of bed. That was something that the kids kind of got a kick out of.
Nowadays, a comedian has to do more than just stand up to get their name out there.
What y'all mad at me for? Y'all still upset about Pluto? It's not a planet because it's too small. That just shows what you know.
And Williams's podcast shows off his versatility.
That's right. I do podcasts. I'm the co-host of the Fraudsters podcast. We are a true crime podcast that's on the Last Podcast Network. If you like true crime with good amount of research, but also a lot of jokes, check out Fraudsters with my co-host, Sina Ghaznavi.
All you liars, cheaters, and grifters better watch out because we're on the case!
And if a TV network comes calling with a development deal, Williams says he'll stick with CUNY.
I love comedy, and it's great. I'm going to work in comedy for the rest of my life, but I wouldn't give up teaching. I like connecting with people, and also what we do at CUNY is part of a broader social mission of social uplift. I always tell people I have the most amazing job in the world at CCNY downtown, where I'm teaching immigrants and the children of immigrants while our window looks out on the Statue of Liberty.
Barry Mitchell for Urban U.
Thanks for watching this Black History Month special on Urban U. We leave you with a performance brought to you by the CUNY Dance Initiative, featuring Andre Zachary, MFA grad from Brooklyn College, whose works have been warmly received nationally and abroad. Until next time, thanks for watching these stories from the nation's largest urban university, the City University of New York.
You are more. break you, break you, break you down, take you, shake you, steal your crown. You are more than this moment. Come like this, kings are shaped by this moment. You